Okay, I've started my project with all of those fabrics that I had sitting on the table over here. They're all so darks, mediums, and lights. And I'm going to be making curves. I decided to make improv circles. That's the easiest way to say it. Improv circles. So the way to do that is to select the right sides and face both of the good sides of fabric up on your cutting table. Use a rotary cutter and make a nice curved piece of rolling to make a curve. If you need to use something like a plate or whatever, you can do that, but then it's not really improv. You want to flex those muscles and become a bit creative with what you're doing. So I have a bunch of pieces here on my desk that are not very big, so I sewed some of those together. And I have a piece here, 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 and a piece here. They're all over the place. And what I just did was I rolled my ruler, my cutting blade up along here. And now I can separate those two. You see the part I cut off is underneath. And the part I want to sew together is this one and that one. Now it has a curve, and if you're afraid of sewing curves, this is my best advice. Where you had it sitting on your desk, take the part that is at the most acute curve, and take that and just fold it over, pinch it with your fingers, and bring that part to your sewing machine and lay that part on the table. You see the curve goes that way and the upper part goes this way. What you have to do is worry about this point right here where you are going to stitch. Your first bit of stitching, keeping those two edges exactly together. You know with quilting, your 1/4-inch foot has that guide on the side. So what I do is I take the underside one with my right hand, the upper side one with my left hand. I turn the hand wheel, start in the sort of the center of the arc, and do a slow stitch. And all I do, I don't pull anything. I just let the machine sew, and I keep the edges that I cut, I lie them together, and all I worry about is this edge of the presser foot here, 1/4-inch foot, and where the needle is going into the fabric. I don't worry about any of this other stuff all over here. Doesn't make any difference right now to what I'm doing. Just keep the two edges together. The nice thing about doing improvisational sewing is you don't have to worry if it doesn't fit exactly the way you thought it should fit, because you've just created something new. So I get to the end, I turn it over, start in the center of this arc once again. I know that was sewed. do a couple more stitches there. Now here's that curve once again. So I just fold this, and I know that it's going to curve this way. I did put a seam right there, but that's all right. You just don't want to pull too much, otherwise you're going to get puckers. To the end of that one. So when I fold it out, see, I've sewed opposing curves to each other. They're just going to need a press out, and then I'll show you my progress so far. So here's the piece I just made. I added this other corner right here from another piece that I had trimmed off of something else. Then with some of the other bits, I made another improv circle. So right now they're just hanging there. They might change position and they might go somewhere else. I have that circle pretty much organized. Again, I'm using smaller bits from cut-offs of things that sort of look all right with the color choices I've got. They're not that hard to take apart and change something if I don't like it, but so far I think I like it. And I just keep building up. Building up until I get enough to cover the wall. All right, check up on you later. So when I'm sewing the pieces together, I move them around a lot on my wall. I will sew a quarter of a circle and then I will move it somewhere else. I will rearrange it. I will add a different color under the curve before I actually sew the curve to the fabric. And sometimes it just needs to add a dark aspect in there, or sometimes it just needs to lighten up, or the color continuity just needs to be rearranged somehow. But I take a photograph, I look at it on my camera, and then I sew it together. Okay, so I sewed that piece into the quarter. Right, I just sewed that line right there just now, up and down. So this piece fills the corner. When I start this kind of a project, I put pins into my wall. There's a pin underneath this corner. There's a pin up underneath that corner. There. And if I go across, you might not be able to see it, but there's a pin right there. And there's also a pin down there. So I have sort of a guideline as to the size I want to cover. And I don't put anything really close to the edges that I wouldn't mind cutting off, because whatever I put on the other side of this quilt is going to determine how big this quilt is when it's done. That's how I operate. Because this is improv, I just don't worry about, what cutting off an inch here or there. It's not going to make any difference to this design whatsoever. All right, so next I have to work my way along here, this row here. And I have a couple of pieces already started up here. And I also have a cutoff over there that I'm going to put in somewhere. So if I take one of those pieces and decide which one can go in this hole, which one can go in that hole, and how I want to put them in. That's the next part. How far down do I want to put them, and how are they going to get sewn in there? There. I see that my line up here doesn't match anything. But that one goes up there, so it's not all that bad. But it might be nicer to have it go a different direction. So that might not live there. How does that look down here? There, it's not too bad. It sort of matches at the top with this curve over here. It's not too bad. So it might live over there. So what's this other one looking like? It's tall and narrow. If I put it there, like that, there's two really dark colors next to each other. And I don't think I want to have that there at all. So that one might live along the wall for another piece altogether. Down the road on the upside over there. So I've got to think about this again. I'm pretty happy with the way it's starting to look. So here's the piece that I want to sew in this corner right here. So I'm going to lay it down on my fabric, right side up, and I only want it to come down about this far, and this is going to be up to there. So when I cut along here, I can then sew this piece to that piece with this curve. So I'm just going to cut along the bottom here, and then I'm just going to roll my cutter up along the side of my piece, like that. And then I'll lift this off, take this one out from underneath, put this one back on top, and when I sew these together, that will fit in the bottom corner. And then I'm going to take this piece here and sew it along the bottom to fill in the bottom of that section. And I'll sew this in and see how it goes. So to sew this, I take sort of the center part of the arc here. Just going to flip that over so that the two edges meet right there. I know some people pin the whole thing all the way down and all the way down, but if you're just careful about what you're doing, you shouldn't have to pin it all the way around. When I get close to filling up the wall, I start to put pieces of fabric, uncut pieces of fabric on the wall, just pinned up so I can audition some of the colors and placements of the blocks I've already done. So you see these here are just pinned on, and some of those up in the upper corner over there are just pinned on, so I can audition. And then I stand back. Sometimes I take a few photos, and I will make sure that I have the colors and also the direction of, in this case, my circle forms, so that they are going to follow through and give me a pleasing to me motif on the fabric. I know it's not everybody's cup of tea, but I find it's a lot of fun, and it's not really as wasteful as some people might think. I don't have a very big pile of leftover pieces here. When I'm cutting them, I always keep my little bone pile right here beside the sewing machine. And really, there's not that many pieces that are cut, rounded, cut, that I might use most of those up in the last few blocks that I have to make. So I'm still working away at it, and I'm still thinking it's coming along. I'll show you the finished project soon. Thank you. Bye. Yes, indeed. It's the last seam. You ever like watching those barnwood builders on TV? They're great. Nice thing about this is I usually make it a bit long. I could trim off the edges, make it look tidy before I want to go and quilt it. I'll just finish this and I'll put it up on the wall, take a picture of it, and then put it away for another day to quilt. Here's the unfinished piece to put on the back of the quilt. And here it is all quilted up. I did a straight line quilting stitch on it, and I made the rows about 1.5 inches apart. It was a fun project. I hope you try sewing some curves soon. Thanks for watching. Bye.